terrible pictures and pictures of bravery of Belarusian people. So today here from building of European Parliament, we are starting a special seminar which we devoted to events in Belarus. And we call it New Belarus Without Lukashenko, Building European Strategy. Our wish really is to, first of all, to listen to our friends from Belarus, who are leading all that democracy revolution. So there is no need to explain what is happening. We are looking each day to events with our solidarity, with our support, with our consent. But what we would like to discuss today, really, what kind of European strategy in support for Belarusian democracy revolution we need to implement. So, as you have seen in the agenda of our seminar, first of all, we shall have statements by our friends from Belarus, and then we shall have a number of members of European Parliament. I'm very happy to see Viola von Kramon from Greens and Michael Galler from EPP together here in Voxbox. Quite many of our colleagues are on Zoom. They will talk. And just few technical remarks, and I will give the floor to our Belarusian friends. The first technical remark is that some people will speak Russian language, so you will have possibility to have translation from Russian to English or from English to Russian. Я говорю про перевод. Тем, которым нужен перевод, вы можете переключиться на перевод из английского на русский или из русского на английский. Second technical remark is very important that today we have this seminar on a very special day. It's a birthday of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. So it's a very nice coincidence, and we are very happy to congratulate Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, president elected by Belarusian people. I am not so sure Michael Galler, I know he's much better singer. He could sing, you know, Happy Birthday, Madam President, but maybe we shall do it at the end. Now, really, my wish when we started to initiate this seminar was very simple. Really, we admire what Belarusian people are doing, and I'm always repeating that they don't need our advice, you know, how to move forward and how to reach final victory. But what is needed, you know, it's much more Belarusian advice to us. How we can support, how we can, you know, do our job in a best effective way. And I was trying to put several very, you know, clear questions, general. So if speakers will try to cover or they will move to other questions, no problem. But my concern and my questions are of that sort. So how EU should build its policy, strategy, and relationship or attitude towards Lukashenko when his mandate will be totally over. Even according to Lukashenko constitution. It will happen either on 5th of November or when he will try to make, you know, falsified in new inauguration. Second question, very important, is how EU should react in a most strongest way to possibilities that on 14th, I mean next Monday, during Lukashenko visit to Moscow, he will sign some kind of new agreements which will be absolutely unacceptable on the questions of sovereignty of Belarus. Third question is important also, how EU can help Belarusian people to bring justice towards those among, crimes and people who suffer it. We are discussing here in Parliament some kind of our initiatives, but that would be very important to hear also from Belarusian people. And the last point is how we can look into possibility of EU to have a really big package of support to democratic Belarus after the new democratic government will be established, especially towards Belarusian economy. How to have, and how we can organize and make an architecture of new support package with several, billions of euros available. So those were my points. And first of all, as I said before, we would like to hear from our friends from Belarus. We were, whom we invited, people are very busy despite the fact that, some of them they are kicked out from Belarus and so on. So there were some changes in the names at the last moment. We wanted to have somebody from Coordination Council, but we know what Lukashenko is doing with the leadership of Coordination Council. We wanted to have somebody from Svetlana Tikhanovskaya headquarters, and also, several other people from human rights, and also from well-known other organizations like European Belarus. So now I'm looking. We asked and we agreed yesterday that Olga Kovalkova, whom we know very well, that she will join our Zoom conference. And I'm looking if Olga is now available and if she is able to speak, 5-7 minutes. So Olga, we are looking for your statement.
I think if you switch off the tone, the echo will be transmitted. You must.
Maybe we can switch to Franek Vechorka, who is now, we know him very well as a journalist, as an expert and everything else, but now he is also close to Svetlana Tikhanovskaya headquarters. So, Franek, can you make your statement?
Thank you, dear Chairman, and thank you everyone for being here and for organizing this fantastic event. So the situation is changing basically every day, and I would say every hour. So what we have right now, we have the very tough situation, like the deadlock. No one wants to step down. No one wants to make any concessions. We have Svetlana Tikhanovskaya as the leader on one side, and huge protest movement supporting her. But this protest movement is not able to create any specific structures because when strikes began at one enterprise or company, authorities are cracking down on these groups. So right now, the movement and the mobilization is same strong as before. We don't see any signs of decline. But what we see the higher level of repressions and of violence used by police and authorities against peaceful protesters. What is important in this new situation? Lukashenko is trying to win some time. He expects that the protest will diminish, will decline when cold times will begin. He expects that the protest will not be same massive on November 5 when all his legal terms are finishing. This is why he also doesn't appoint the inauguration, because he knows that inauguration can be this point of resistance. The major issue is how we, people struggling for democracy and freedom in Belarus, how we can make sure that his authority, his power and himself is not recognized as legitimate leader anymore. Right, the legitimacy he has is in crisis. both internally and externally. Many foreign countries do not recognize him as the elected president, and the Lithuanian parliament made a very important statement yesterday. But also there is a crisis of legitimacy of Lukashenko inside of the country. Sportsmen, their national team, state workers announced that they're not going to do what their management are sent to do. Even the communal workers supposed to delete flags and opposition graffitis, they boycott and sabotage this work. This is also the crisis of legitimacy for Lukashenko. And at the same time, when we delegitimize Lukashenko, the big issue is how to legitimize Tikhanovskaya and Coordination Council. Lukashenko makes all possible to not let this happen. This is why he arrested all the presidium of the National Coordination Council or pushed them out of the country. Olga Kovalkova is present here, and she's one of the presidium members. And the problem is that is it possible to create and to manage Coordination Council as the only one legitimate institution in Belarus able to organize the negotiations without having actual leaders of this institution present in the country? I don't think there are precedents in the history, and I think Belarus in general is very unprecedented situation right now. So we have to find solutions. We have to invent new solutions, because the situation in general is not comparable to any other country and any other historical cases. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Franek, thanks a lot. And now I see Olga Kovalkova with us. So, Olga, really pleasure to see you. Safe, and really appreciate very much that you joined our conversation. So I would there is no need to explain what Olga Kovalkova recently suffered, and what she went through, and we know her role in Coordination Council. So Olga, please, floor is yours. You can speak Russian language, we have translation. Вы можете говорить на русском, у нас есть перевод. Ольга, пожалуйста, слово вам.
Меня слышно? Да, добрый день, коллеги. Рада быть в вашей компании сегодня. Конечно же, наверное, не буду повторяться, потому что ситуация в Беларуси сейчас достаточно сложная, поскольку после победы Светланы Тихановской на выборах, которая стала очевидна белорусскому обществу, силовой блок Александра Лукашенко взяли курс на то, чтобы все-таки силовым методом удержать власть, и у них это не получится, поскольку не конкретные лидеры, с которыми они сейчас борются, сегодня возмущены и выходят на улицы. Каждый гражданин Беларуси, который не голосовал за Александра Лукашенко, таких большинство, сегодня протестуют и используют все мирные способы для того, чтобы донести до властей свою позицию о том, что они не готовы дальше мириться с этим унижением, с беззаконием и с тем, что их голос в их стране никто не учитывает. Конечно же, у властей Беларуси есть мнение о том, что эти протесты организованы лидерами Координационного совета, о том, что забастовки тоже инициированы нами, но это абсолютно ошибочное мнение. Впервые, наверное, за много количество лет в Беларуси все инициативы идут от людей, и в этом году произошло невероятное. Просто какой-то звук параллельно. Ага, вот сейчас нет. Поэтому, конечно же, сейчас есть несколько вопросов. Это деятельность Координационного совета, которые власти пытаются задушить. Вчера очередное заявление сделал Александр Лукашенко о том, что тех методов перед Генпрокуратурой, о том, что тех методов борьбы с Координационным советом недостаточно, он просит их усилить. Это опять сигнал, что они не готовы разговаривать, но Координационный совет свою работу прекращать не планирует. Только что у нас состоялось заседание, вот оно еще до сих пор продолжается по Zoom, я участвовала в нем. Мы вырабатывали и думали о том, как продолжать работу дальше в тех условиях, которые есть, поскольку очевидно, что есть еще угроза и заявления от других субъектов внутри Беларуси, которые говорят о том, что они готовы идти на переговоры. На сегодняшний момент единственным органом, который может говорить от большинства белорусов, является как раз созданный Координационный совет, с которыми власти борются, и нельзя допустить, чтобы этот диалог, ну, то есть не то, чтобы нельзя подменить, да, знаете, и выбрать удобного переговорщика, который имеет, может быть, более слабую позицию, поскольку основная повестка сегодня в Беларуси, основной месседж Координационного совета, созданного Светланой Тихановской, это проведение новых выборов, честных, на которых каждый голос будет учитан, и белорусы смогут себе выбрать власть, и освобождение всех политических заключенных и прекращение репрессий по политическим убеждениям. Это основная повестка Координационного совета, который продолжает работать. И, наверное, важно, чтобы, и очень важно, чтобы на международной арене, на уровне президентском, представлена была Светлана Тихановская как человек, который победил на выборах в Беларуси, а на тех площадках парламентских и других на международной арене должен присутствовать голос Координационного совета, потому что то преследование, которым подвергаются сегодня, и вы знаете, что сегодня 4 члена президиума находятся за решеткой, и их освобождение — это такая же первоочередная задача, поскольку белорусы доверили им свой голос, и эти люди не могут находиться в заключении. Вот, поэтому, и, конечно же, для того, чтобы разрабатывать какой-то дальнейший план по коммуникации с Беларусью, внутри Беларуси, нужно привлекать на эти международные площадки белорусских экспертов, людей, которые работают внутри страны и которые готовы участвовать в этих международных обсуждениях.
Спасибо, Ольга, спасибо большое. И таких успехов вам. И надеемся увидеть либо здесь, в Брюсселе, либо в Вильнюсе, может быть, встретимся в свободном Минске. So thanks a lot, and we are continuing our conversation. And now I would like to ask Valentin Stefanovich from Human Rights Center Vesna to make his statement, and really what we are looking for is to look into possibilities how we can help to bring justice to Belarusian people and to have some kind of international investigation of the crimes of OMON, which were and still are continuing and are very terrible. So Valentin, please, floor is yours.
Добрый день. Большое спасибо за возможность выступить по данной теме. Теме, конечно, актуальной для белорусских граждан, особенно со связью после 9 числа мы наблюдаем полной эскалации.
No, I don't hear anything.
И сейчас в стране не осталось процедур и инструментов, которые можно было бы использовать для защиты граждан от произвола силовиков. Эти инструменты и механизмы, собственно, мягко говоря, и ранее были не идеальными, но сейчас, после 9 числа, их просто нет. Поэтому остается актуальным вопрос, как использовать международные инструменты и механизмы для расследования тех преступлений, которые были совершены в постизбирательный период и в период избирательной кампании, и каким образом Европейский Союз мог бы посодействовать и содействовать этим расследованиям. Ну, во-первых, хотелось бы сказать, что правозащитные организации сейчас активно пытаются задействовать все те механизмы, которые возможно задействовать в международных организациях, членами которых является Республика Беларусь. Это в первую очередь Организация Объединенных Наций. Сейчас правозащитный центр «Весна» совместно с Хельсинским комитетом уже направили обращение от имени более 40 жертв пыток в Комитет против пыток ООН с просьбой начать процедуру расследования в рамках статьи 20 Конвенции против пыток ООН, участницей которой является Республика Беларусь. Но учитывая то, что Беларусь присоединилась к конвенции с оговорками, а также не ратифицировала факультативный протокол к конвенции, есть определенные проблемы в реализации этих механизмов, и процедуры статьи 20, они не публичны, они очень длинные и очень долгие. Поэтому мы также обратились к спецдокладчику Комитета против пыток с просьбой начать специальные так называемые процедуры ООН, то есть вступить в коммуникации с правительством Беларуси, требуя объяснений фактов применения массовых и системных пыток в стране после 9 числа. И также, чтобы спецдокладчик обратился с просьбой о визите в страну. Также, естественно, мы будем использовать процедуры универсального периодического обзора, очередной раунд которого будет проходить в Беларусь в Совете по правам человека ООН в ноябре месяце. И с 14 сентября по 2 октября состоится сессия Комитета по правам человека ООН, на которой по нашей просьбе международных правозащитных организаций и белорусских будет проходить дискуссия по ситуации в Беларуси. Также мы обратились в офис Верховного комиссара ООН с просьбой направить в Беларусь мониторинговую миссию офиса Верховного комиссара. Что касается ОБСЕ, мы сейчас просим государства Евросоюза и США, которые являются членами ОБСЕ, начать процедуру московского механизма, так называемого ОБСЕ, то есть начало назначения спецдокладчика ОБСЕ и проведение расследования в рамках ОБСЕ фактов пыток и других нарушений прав человека в Беларуси. Естественно, мы все прекрасно понимаем о том, что все спецдокладчики, назначенные, существующие, могут посетить страну только с разрешения и приглашения белорусских властей. Больше никак они попасть на территорию Беларуси не могут. Естественно, мы понимаем, что никакого приглашения ни мандату спецдокладчика против пыток, ни мандату специального докладчика по ситуации с правами человека в Беларуси ООН, ни будущему спецдокладчику, который мог бы быть назначен в рамках процедуры ОБСЕ, московского механизма в Беларусь не последует. Но тем не менее, эти механизмы очень важны для нас, поскольку это дает возможность задействовать дополнительные мониторинговые площадки и вовлечь такие организации, как ОБСЕ, например, в те процессы, которые происходят сейчас в нашей стране. Но если мы говорим конкретно о преследовании, именно уголовном преследовании тех, кто виновен в применении пыток, а это, по нашему мнению, является преступлением против человечности, которое по нашему законодательству национальному не имеет никаких сроков давности, то, конечно, в этом контексте для нас представлял бы интерес применения так называемых процедур универсальной юрисдикции странами Европейского Союза, которые такую универсальную юрисдикцию предусмотрено их законодательством, и они ее могут применять. Тут, конечно, надо сказать, что тут тоже есть ряд проблем. К сожалению, за более чем 20 лет не было возбуждено уголовного дела ни в одной стране Европейского Союза, которая применяет универсальную юрисдикцию по фактам насильственных исчезновений и внесудебных казней лидеров оппозиции в 1999-2000 году. Но, тем не менее, мы надеемся, что сейчас такие страны, которые могут практиковать универсальную юрисдикцию, смогут ее применить. Конечно, мы понимаем, что при этом потенциальные обвиняемые должны находиться на территории Европейского Союза для того, чтобы их привлечь к ответственности. Но мне кажется, что опыт Польши, который сейчас возбудил уголовные дела в связи с избиениями граждан Польши на территории Беларуси ОМОНом в течение вот этого периода после 9 августа, представляет особый интерес. И я думаю, что такому примеру могли бы последовать ряд других стран. Я думаю, что Украина, например, возможно, тоже имеет универсальную юрисдикцию в части преступлений против человечества и могла бы задействовать эти процедуры по фактам избиений и пыток украинских граждан, которые имели место в Беларуси после 9 числа. Даже Белорусский уголовный кодекс предусматривает универсальную юрисдикцию в части преступлений против человечности. Поэтому я думаю, что аналогичные нормы могут быть в уголовном праве и ряда стран Европейского Союза, и также других наших соседей, в том числе Украины. Ну и также одним из способов, так скажем, определенного наказания тех, кто непосредственно участвовал в пытках, хотя, конечно, это не в полной мере наказание, как это могло бы быть в связи с возбуждением уголовных дел, является принятие санкций Европейского Союза в отношении таких лиц, именно санкций конкретно против конкретных должностных лиц Республики Беларусь, которые принимали участие и участвовали в пытках граждан. Вот если коротко, то я бы видел это в такой перспективе, и мы очень бы надеялись и готовы сотрудничать со всеми инструментами и механизмами, которые возможно задействовать для расследования преступлений против человечности, которые были совершены в Республике Беларусь. Спасибо.
Стефанович, реализация. Whom we have again very well known Belarusian political activist or leader or whatever we can call in all the different names, Andrei Sannikov from European Belarus. Mr. Sannikov, floor is yours. Switch on your micro. Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't hear you in the beginning, so I had to guess that you are giving me the floor. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Andres, for organizing this. It is really Lithuania is leading the way in assessing the situation and taking measures as regards the situation in Belarus. And I would really like to follow your lead and follow the questions that you posed for us. And first question is, what should be the strategy after Lukashenko allegedly term in office expires? First of all, forget about any term in office, legitimate term in office of Lukashenko, because his term in office is expired finally in September 2001. It was expiring in 3 stages. First, after the referendum, when he usurped the power and changed the constitution or destroyed the constitution. Then in 1999, when he had to have the election, presidential election, but he didn't. Then 2001. So to speak today that there is some kind of legitimacy for Lukashenko before some certain date is to say to people that you can kill more or less legally people in Belarus. So forget about the dates. We have to react now, and the European Union have to react now. And the strategy has to be as tough as possible, because it is quite surprising that today no tough measures are taken as regards the Belarusian situation, and that very unfortunate development with Cyprus that is holding back the sanctions, even not so strong sanctions against Lukashenko and his thugs, is really the weakness of the European Union. That's why I really would like to praise the Baltic states and first of all Lithuania for taking very decisive measures against the regime of Lukashenko. Second, the second question is how to react to possible documents signed in Moscow by Putin and Lukashenko. You have to react by sanctioning Putin, because we have now Russians on our territory. We already have invasion. I think by several assessments, we have about 1,000 people under different pretexts that are being sent to Belarus. And it is not only those strike breakers from the state TV. I mean, Russian propagandists that are working now for Belarusian state TV. It's also we are very much afraid that the people are now working as bandits in the streets, because there were several cases when their identities were revealed, when balaclava were torn away, and we saw that they were Russians. And there is another fact that the number of visits from the southern federal district of Russia, internet visits on the internet sites belonging to the southern federal district and to the separatist territories in Ukraine has grown dramatically from Belarus, I mean. which is a clear indication that there are thugs being sent from Russia and probably from the Donbas region to act against the peaceful demonstrations in Belarus. So there have to be a very strong signal to Putin, first of all, that any kind of paper with this insane dictator will be null and void, of course, but also that Putin will be also sanctions, and Kremlin will be sanctions if it continues its invasion and its interference in Belarusian affairs. And it is clear today that Lukashenko badly needs this interference and invites it, and that Putin is ready to do, not ready, he's already doing this. Then how to bring justice? Sanctions. I have only one answer. There are three most effective measures against the injustice and against what is going on in Belarus. Sanctions, sanctions, and sanctions. Because, you know, the people are being killed in Belarus, and you will not stop it by reprimanding them. And even personal or targeted sanctions are not enough. I can tell you the recent examples of our history. When economic sanctions were introduced by United States in 2008, all political prisoners were immediately released, immediately. It was, there were about 9 of them, and among them Alexander Kazulin, former presidential candidate in the election of 2006. So the sanctions are needed, and sanctions that would be irreversible for the perpetrators of crimes, because there are criminals that enjoy impunity. You know, I was always telling the European Union officials that it was a grave mistake to leave sanctions in 2016, because you provided impunity for what's going on today, and because people know that maybe, yes, we will have to tolerate, we will have to be patient for 3-4 years, and then sanctions will be lifted and we'll go to Europe, as Yermoshina did. There have to be economic sanctions, there have to be sanctions against falsifiers, there have to be sanctions against OMON. And the number of the persons sanctions have to match the number of those who are arrested, because we have not about 100 political prisoners. We have thousands and thousands of political prisoners today in Belarus. We simply don't know all the names because the scale of repression is simply enormous. So, and I can give you also my own example, an example of other political prisoners who were released only after economic sanctions were introduced. Look, workers are now going on strikes, they are sabotaging, they are risking their lives. And it is not, they are not risking their wages, they are risking their lives. Because if Lukashenko maintains power, the Belarus will be sworn in blood. And they are risking their lives, and they're not paying much attention to their economic well-being, because they want to get rid of this system. They want to get rid of this dictatorship, and they want to live in a democratic country. They want to elect their own government. So only sanctions could help to stop the violence, and only sanctions could help those who are suffering today. As for the strategy, I would say that the strategy for the new Belarus will be useful and effective only after the old Belarus is gone completely. But you have a very good example of, people may forgot already, but there was a very good non-paper produced by European Union in 2008, I believe, which was called What EU Could Bring to Belarus, which enumerated, you know, it was a very hot brochure pamphlet in Belarus. We printed it underground. Some of the embassies were helping us. It was published in both in Belarusian and Russian, except besides English and French. And it was like you know, very hot item. People were looking for it. People were reading it. People were really encouraged by this kind of strategies that European Union mapped already in 2008. Today, what is needed is the support of people, is the support of those who suffer from this regime, the support against the repression. And I think that the European Union could follow the example of Baltic states. Individual sanctions could be introduced, like Lithuania, like Latvia, like Estonia did. because if Cyprus could hold, presumably because they have some dispute with Turkey, the sanctions against the killers, the murderers in Belarus, then it shows the weakness, and it really encourages Lukashenko to continue with violence. You can proceed with individual sanctions that are not less effective, because Lukashenko already started the war against you, especially Baltic states, I mean, especially Lithuania. And this war, if there is no strong reaction, and if there is no solidarity of Europe and United States, he will be prevailing in this war, I'm sorry to say, because he knows your weak spots, and he doesn't have 28 members to coordinate his politics with. So I encourage you to be bold, to follow the lead of Lithuania, to recognize legitimate results of elections in Belarus, to recognize not to recognize illegitimate Lukashenko, because that is the line to follow. Non-recognition, very strong, strict, legal non-recognition of Lukashenko starting from the 9th of August, because he completely was deprived of legitimacy on the 9th of August. Thank you.
I am informed 10 or 11 members of European Parliament who are, really very much interested and supporting Belarusian case. I know that Anna Fotyga needs to leave very soon. So if all others would agree, I would ask Anna Fotyga to take a floor. And my suggestion is really, we can ask questions of our Belarusian friends, and we can discuss during that part, what we can do here in the European Parliament, how really to support Belarusian case as much as possible. So, Mrs. Anna Fotyga, please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for organizing this webinar with our Belarusian friends. It is extremely important. Allow me to state at the very beginning that I really pay tribute to people of Belarus, to ordinary people of Belarus. We particularly in Poland, with our history, we know it is simply the life of many of us fighting for sovereignty, for independence, and we know how difficult it is. So I really commend people of Belarus for their organizing skills, for their competence in maintaining the protests. Our role is certainly, and there are several of us, hopefully more and more within the European Parliament who monitor the situation for many years already. And surely sooner or later it was to happen. It happened now. We have to use every possibility to speak up for Belarusians, to internationalize every case of violence, torture, intimidation, of violation of human rights. We have to support the Coordination Council, and as we do, also the public appearances of people like Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, other representatives of Belarus. I think that our efforts, coordinated efforts to use the opportunity of Sakharov Prize to make it more public are of importance. Actually, it is very difficult to listen to Mr. Salnikov, because actually I agree with every word of his speech. With all my experience, I know that the most firm stance at this moment is of vital importance, and our role is to make it public, to appeal, to put every effort in order to ensure the Western world and Western message, in particular to Kremlin, being as strong, as firm, as decisive as possible, because threats are there. We discuss the world after Lukashenko, knowing that he is going to travel to Moscow and most probably selling even more of Belarusian sovereignty for eventual further support, although Putin tries to be rather cautious in showing off the support, enabling Western journalists to say that he is unwilling, that he is not decided. Actually, according to our knowledge, yes, the creeping silent intervention is already there. And this message of Western world, not discussions how to further engage in dialogue, but how to deter politically, financially, and with other means and tools we have, eventual further actions by Kremlin. And then we have to ensure that every support currently and in close future going to or dedicated for Belarus is to be addressed to people, to civil society of Belarus, omitting any structure belonging or subordinated to Lukashenko regime. I believe that it is sooner than later now, surely after the massive protests, the evidence that all groups of Belarusian society support demonstration and change in Belarus. Now the change is inevitable. The question is certainly further choice of Belarus, and we are there to serve as supporting neighbors in all endeavors to take over power in the country. Thank you.
Now please, Sergey.
I heard the name Sergey, and I assume it's mine because you were muted. But the Sergey name I heard. So if it's about me, hi. Thank you very much. It's a great opportunity to talk to people from the country and to those heroes who actually, if I may use this word, it's very poetic and but it is, you are heroes today, those who are in the country and fighting, and we're just trying to support as much as we can. Sorry?
It's okay.
Yeah. I wanted to make just a couple of remarks. And Viola von Kramon, who is in Brussels, is the one who is more directly responsible for our policies towards Belarus. But if I may, I think that the key now lies no more in Brussels, but unfortunately in Moscow. And the question is how we should deal with this. Applying more pressure, and Anna Fatiga said that Putin is trying to be a little bit timid. regarding his own ambitions. I don't see this. I see that Russian informational structures and his statements are quite clear. He has decided, he has made a decision, and this decision is to support Lukashenko. And under these circumstances, we have to apply pressure. We are very outspoken regarding the position of the Kremlin in case of Navalny, and maybe it is time to start being outspoken regarding the position of Moscow in the case of Belarus. I just talked today with a couple of colleagues from Belarus. Maybe one of the ideas could also be, and I don't know whether we have to check whether this is formally okay, if we are talking about the list of sanctions in regards and connected to the Belarus situation, maybe putting on the list people like the Russia Today person who just interviewed and questioned Lukashenko in a very offensive way to Belarusians, I would say. Maybe putting propagandists like that with Russian passport on the list on Belarus would be a sign. We have to check whether this is possible legally, but it could be a strong sign that we see through who are the real enemies and opponents of the democratic opposition and democratic movement of Belarus. Otherwise, it's an interesting, thank you for reminding us that sanctions might be justifiable even if they're not targeted in certain situations and under certain instances, and maybe we should think about broadening the scope of sanctions here as well. So I didn't want to do too much poetry. I wanted to be kind of more up to the point and to see what can we really do from Brussels or from Berlin, like myself sitting here, in order to help and assist you. And once again, my full respect to everyone sitting here, to all men and especially to all women, whom I don't see that many, unfortunately, on the screen, but who we know are the driving force in many cases of this great peaceful revolution. Thank you very much, and best regards from Berlin in this case.
Well, thanks a lot, Sergei. Thanks a lot very much. And now I am asking Michael Galler from EPP, from Germany, and also coordinator of EPP group in AFET committee. And always we're now walking around with nice Belarusian national flag.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is already from 10 years ago, when we were also very concerned about the presidential elections 10 years ago, and we had our solidarity events at the time. Dear friends in Belarus, what is important to note is that you will find here in the European Parliament a broad political consensus amongst the relevant groups, not the extreme right and not the extreme left, but that is usual, but all the others are on board when it's about taking your sides and supporting you in your own, as you call it, your democratic revolution. That is important to note. Moreover, I think it is for us important to listen what you suggest to us, because we do not want to suggest things that are not in your interest and what you would rather not like to see. So we listen what was just told here, and insofar I think we'll be on a good track to not only to pronounce ourselves here, but also to push our executive, that is the governments, and that is the European Commission and the External Action Service. For instance, we have gone a step further already in our declaration, arguing not only not to recognize the elections, but also demanding fresh ones. Formally, our council, our governments have not together argued for that. I think on the substance they will of course agree to it, because that is the logical consequence of not accepting the result of these falsified elections and unfair elections. So, but they should also pronounce it directly. I wonder, and that is something that we are discussing here, how we can be helpful in well, giving transparency to the concrete perpetrators. We have seen that there are already in Nechta, I think they have put up a list of those who have committed personally atrocities and violations of human rights against demonstrators or against prisoners. I wonder whether we could be helpful here in a professional way, also with international organizations against torture or the other bodies, to assemble all those names and facts that are happening as we speak, because it might happen if you have it only in Belarus, it might be seized and be somehow getting lost. Because I think that would also have a preventive effect if perpetrators, if violent people know that they will be registered and that at some point in a free Belarus they might be held to account. That has an effect that they are not behaving in the bad way, what we see every day in the demonstrations. So that is one idea, one consideration. Perhaps you tell us whether you find that useful or not. I think indeed this notion to think holistically, that we are not only looking at Belarus, but that we at the same time look also to Russia and to Putin, what he is doing. I think it is necessary to tell the Russian leader very clearly that he risks also to be affected by sanctions if he ignores the sovereignty of Belarus and the will of the people. That it is nothing that he gets for free if he behaves in a way that is even increasing the support for the outvoted regime. Insofar, we would, as we heard from the previous speakers, really note your suggestions and put it on the discussion when we also next week will discuss Belarus in the plenary, when we will have a resolution. And it's important also to get input from your side what we will put in there in order to be on the right track, because we do not want to overcharge you. Belarus is not the same situation as it was in Ukraine. Your special needs and your special demands are listened to here, and we will carefully echo that in order to be helpful and not and giving no argument to the Kremlin or to Lukashenko that you are at our on our agenda in a way that you are doing what we want. No, it's the other way around. We support your democratic revolution, and I think all specific suggestions and input from your side is very much welcome here. All the best. Żyje Belarus.
Żyje Belarus. Well, Michael, thanks a lot. And really, now I would like to switch to Viola von Kramon, also member for European Parliament from Green Groups from Germany. And we know Viola's a very strong supporter of all positive developments in Eastern Partnership countries. And I see, I don't know if that's symbolic.
Well, yeah,
that was my point.
It's for purpose.
Yeah, that she came also in red and white, like all women are going out, you know, in Belarus now. So Viola, please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and thanks for everyone today taking part in this great event, and also for the continuous briefing on the different channel. I just read the 7 ways the West can help Belarus from Franak Viercha, and I think this is the way how we communicate in these days. I really, I'm absolutely impressed by the work you as journalists, as think tankers, as people on the ground do every day to try to reach out to us in a most appropriate way. This is, of course, a big help for us, while I know that most of the journalists have even more problems now to work in Belarus and in the different regions. Many things are being said before, and I couldn't agree more with what Anna Fortiga, but also Sergei Lagodinsky and Mr. Zanikov has said before, and all the other who contributed. I think our target now is not Lukashenko anymore, unfortunately, because it's not in his hand. It's absolutely dependent on the situation in the Kremlin, how Mr. Putin will decide, how much support he will give to Lukashenko and his old regime, whether he will decide to implement a new figure and whoever this might be. So I guess it is overdue now to really hard talk, to think about what kind of sanction might be effective. In Germany, finally, the discussion, the debate around Nord Stream 2 gained a little bit of speed, which is important. I think this is overdue. It hasn't, it didn't need to have the poisoning of Mr. Navalny. It was obviously before that the Kremlin is interfering in different kind of wars. It is in Syria, it is in Ukraine, it is in Crimea, it was in Georgia. So in Libya, we see it in all the different regions, in all the different places. But now with having his people on the ground in Belarus, it is more than obvious that we have to target Putin as much as we can. And everyone has repeated this. We need a unified European Union to really play a role, a crucial role, during the next weeks. I hope that what was mentioned today, that we can include Cyprus when it comes to hard sanction, when it comes to targeted sanction, that there is no veto from one or the other member state in that very important question. I'm not so sure whether we really have a broader sectoral approach when it comes to sanction. I know that the Potash and Kali company in Belarus is a strategic industry for Lukashenko, and of course it is of big interest for Putin to get this. So we should think about how to treat this particular industry, and also how we're going to put pressure on this fact. But what impressed me really the most is the female role of this revolution. I was so impressed also from the humanity perspective, how the women every day went out and were so gracious and were so invitating also for us. It was really a role model for all women in Europe, how you have treated the perpetrators, the OMON special forces in your country. You always went there, you tried to kiss them, to hug them, to show your respect. The solidarity, you can be sure, from the European Union is surely on your side. And we really try to do, and we still do what we can do. We have a debate next week. We have a broad majority for the support for the civil society, for the victims, for people who have to flee the country, people in exile, for the students who have to leave the university. All the different groups and all the different actors in Belarus will be supported. You have seen the big diplomatic support by the European Union, by the by the member states, countries, for Svetlana Alexievich, for the Nobel Prize laureate during the last days, and this will continue. So there will be 24/7 support in Minsk, especially for her, to really protect her from the Lukashenko regime. I think this is also a significant sign of solidarity from our side. And if you have more ideas, if you come up with more concepts apart from sanctions and apart from the instruments we have mentioned today, please don't hesitate to address them to us, because we will pick them up, make them public, and try to gain a majority for everything which is needed for Belarus. So we hope for the best. We all hope that there is a democratic change within the next future, within the next days, within the next weeks. Whatever comes up, we will be with you, we will observe, we will watch you, and we will definitely fight for the things you have mentioned, such as a special envoy to investigate the torturing in your country and all the other measures you have mentioned. I think this is crucial, and this is surely in our interest to support you with that. Thanks a lot, and all the best, and let's stay in contact.
Well, thanks, Viola. Really, as always, we know your strong position. and we're very happy to have you today. Now I would like to ask, I saw Petras Auštrevičius is also participating here. Petras Auštrevičius from Renew Group from Lithuania and also standing rapporteur on Belarus. So Petras, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Andrus. Thank you all taking part in today's exchange, very important exchange. Belarus is in our hearts and minds, and not occasionally. So we've been looking for this momentum, I have to admit, not knowing exactly how it will develop, I mean, for really long. So, but now, once Belarusians, first of all, raised up against Lukashenko regime, I mean, everybody should probably understand, and Lukashenko, first of all, that there is no way back. I mean, there is no way, I mean, to put people under this kind of political prison as Lukashenko regime has created in Belarus, and to deny any change which is so vividly expressed by this appraisal, as well as peaceful manifestation of many people. In fact, we have to understand that, I mean, everything what is going on in Belarus is not just based on one fact or one event. And Lukashenko's crimes list, it's quite extensive. It's not just rigged elections, but first of all, violence against peaceful protesters, detention of many people who become political prisoners. In fact, the disappearance of people. I mean, we still have quite a list of people who are with unknown destiny for the time of being. And finally, forced deportation of many NCC members and other people who are not really falling into the list of his favorite. In fact, everything started from election in Belarus, and even pre-campaign events in Belarus. But I have to admit, I mean, we have to see that process a bit different now, and in a different color. I see a lot of geopolitical developments in Belarus and around Belarus. And let's be frank, it's not just domestic events and processes in Belarus. It's about wide intervention from the Russian side, and let's put it into the first position as such. My strategy, Andrus, as you asked for European strategy build-up or kind of construction towards Belarus, I would probably call it 3S: solidarity, support, and sanctions. Political solidarity is not just an empty word, not at all. Belarusians must hear and must understand that the Western world, democratic community of the world is standing behind and indeed understands the situation in Belarus. We have to provide support. It's inevitable. It's inevitable, especially to those people who are in such a need, not just political need, but physical need. And there are so many wounded people who went through the prison process of so-called gulag of Lukashenko. And in fact, sanctions, indeed, those sanctions must be not about 25 or 30 people. Lukashenko should lead the sanction list. His family members must be on the list. Only then we will prove that we do understand people on the streets of Minsk, Mogilev, or Bobruisk, or Brest. Otherwise, we will be really hiding behind some probably even financial interest of some politicians in Europe who are not willing to make that decision. So, mediation from the OSCE is needed. Where is that? I mean, it's already for 4 weeks and more, and we don't see any clarity on this issue. I understand, I mean, Russia is a part of OSCE, Belarus is a part of the OSCE, but can't we do something more? I mean, to bring this mediation team as soon as possible. And in fact, to we have to do everything possible to prevent any legal and military risks towards Belarus sovereignty and territorial integrity arising from the Russian intervention. It's a matter of fact. I mean, we can't be too late on this issue. So that's why European Union's position, clear actions towards this are so needed. And finally, Andres, what I see, I mean, in the European position, what the European position should contain more and express explicitly, very clearly. First of all, investigation of crimes. You've been speaking about this, and I'm in full support of this. We have to investigate corruption crimes of previous regime, of Lukashenko. And let's be frank, I mean, his bags of money are somewhere. And we have to find those money and bring back to people of Belarus who are in such a need. We have to support unconditionally and recognize Svetlana Tikhanovskaya as people's elect president. It's clear. I mean, she's a national leader. She is elected by heart and hands of people in the elections we just saw. And of course, NCC, National Coordination Council, it must be given our full recognition and support needed once it's asked from their side. Thirdly, or fourthly, we need to support civil society financially. I think we can do it, and we should find ways and means how to transfer our support to the civil society, to empower society to remain motivated and able to withstand such a pressures from Lukashenko regime. And finally, we have to adopt European Union's clear position on hybrid intervention from the Russian side. It's really needed. Every meeting, every piece of information, and even today, so many things been mentioned about this hybrid intervention way Russia handles things in Belarus. And of course, this event and many events which will follow show our sincere support to our Belarusian friends who are Europeans. And I believe with all our actioning together, we will make everything possible to become Belarus once again a visible country on European map. Thank you, Andres. Thank you all colleagues, and I'm looking forward. Thank you.
Well, Petra, thanks a lot. We know how much you are doing for democratic Belarus, being standing rapporteur. And now it's my pleasure to invite Sandra Kalniete, who is shadow standing rapporteur on Belarus, who is vice chair of EPP group in parliament, and who is also leading our group on foreign affairs. Sandra Kalniete from Latvia. Sandra, I see you on the screen, but I don't know if you are connected totally. Well, for time being, I don't know where is Sandra. If our staff people will find her. I see that Rasa Juknevičienė is really ready, as always. From Rasa Juknevičienė from EPP group, from Lithuania, from my and Rasa and Liudas Mažylis joint office in Vilnius, I see.
No, from Panevėžys.
She's protesting.
Even better.
Okay, but Rasa, please, floor is yours.
Hello. Hi, dear friends in Brussels, Warsaw, everywhere. I will switch later into Russian because I have audience here, people gathered also from my friends, colleagues, and they are listening carefully what are you saying, but they are a little bit senior in their age, so they were forced during Soviet Union occupation to learn Russian, but not English, unfortunately. So for them, it would be easier to listen my intervention in Russian.
Sure.
It's not so bad. I also always saying that only good thing I got from Soviet occupation is language. So now I can follow Putin's propaganda directly with nuances. So this is it helps a lot in my activities. But дорогие друзья, те, которые слушают нас и в Белоруссии, доброго дня. Я говорю из бюро города Поневежес. Многие знают этот город, потому что это город театра Мильтинеса, и те, которые постарше, хорошо знают этот мой город. Мы участвовали с этого города тоже в «Дороге свободы», поэтому я вот так одета, как было тогда 23 августа. Вы знаете, в Литве такое братство сейчас с белорусским народом, и я думаю, что это приходит от там других поколений. Наверное, от Кастусиса Калиновского, наверное, от восстаний 1863 года против царской России, когда мы вместе боролись с поляками, с белорусами против этой оккупации. И такого еще не было в Литве, такого братства вот с вами и такой поддержки, которая сейчас чувствуется в Литве всюду. У меня насчет вопроса Андрюса, насчет стратегии. Вы знаете, я думаю, что стратегия, она такая объединяющая Путина и Лукашенко. Потому что мы сейчас видим два процесса вместе. И отравление Навального, и наши дискуссии насчет санкций против против режима Кремля, и Лукашенко. Потому что сейчас Лукашенко уже за Лукашенко отвечает Путин. Все, что делает сегодня Лукашенко, это ответственность уже Путина. Потому что он как раз сейчас стоит за ним. Без Путина Лукашенко, наверное, давно бы уже и не было в этой позиции. Так что вот как раз европейская стратегия должна идти этими двумя путями. И санкции против, думать, что делать с Кремлем. Я думаю, что красные линии уже давно позади. И отравление Навального – это еще одна красная линия. Я не знаю, сколько можно еще красных линий для Европы, Америки и других, чтобы все поняли, что это такое. Но я думаю, что больше и больше людей понимает. И, конечно, то, что я не буду повторяться, что сказал и Петрос, и Эндрюс, и другие насчет нашего европейской стратегии, насчет Белоруссии. У меня два вопроса для наших друзей, но коротких таких вопросов. Но я еще хочу сказать насчет того, что происходит, как я понимаю, что происходит сейчас. Я думаю, что как раз это вторая волна коллапса Советского Союза. Потому что Советский Союз, коллапс не состоялся. Была первая волна коллапса Советского Союза, когда мы стали членами НАТО, Европейского Союза, я имею в виду Балтийские государства. Но с Путиным этот Советский Союз, он начал опять его как-то, этот Советский Союз восстанавливать. И Беларусь был, как бы сказать, backbone, таким главным костем этого Советского Союза. И я верю сейчас. Вы знаете, я, наверное, наивный человек, наверное, очень идеалистический человек, но после того, что я увидела в Белоруссии, ведь очень мало кто мог надеяться, что вот так пойдет народ против этого Советского Союза. Я верю, что я дождусь еще при моей жизни и того же самого в России. И я думаю, что вот это тоже может быть стратегией Европейского Союза, верить в это. Если будем верить в то, что Путин не навсегда, тогда и не будет того, что мы слышим от некоторых лидеров, что вот надо диалога, надо там что-то такое. Когда ты не веришь в народ, российский или белорусский, тогда у тебя стратегия работает и с Лукашенко, и с Путиным. А вопросы такие. Как в Белоруссии принимают сейчас люди эту пропаганду, такую, ну, черную пропаганду, которая ведется через кремлевские телевидения, очень массивно, я думаю, в первую очередь это направлено на россиян и на белорусов. И второе, как меняется ли настроение у людей насчет того, что Путин сейчас поддерживает Лукашенко. Спасибо всем большое. Живя Беларусь, и мы вас очень любим.
Thanks, and really, your Russian language is not disappearing, so that's good. I can try to compete with you. Мои самые добрые пожелания друзьям в Поневежье. Geriausi linkėjimai visiems. And now I saw that Miriam Lexman, member of European Parliament from Slovakia, from EPP Group, is together with us, and we know that she is a real fighter also for Belarusian issues, being a member of delegation towards Belarus, if I am correct. Miriam, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrus, for organizing this event, and thank you for the floor and the possibility to speak. I joined a bit later because I had a meeting with the Slovak foreign minister, and we discussed to a large extent the situation in Belarus and the position Slovakia should have at the European Council and Foreign Affairs Council. I would maybe bring one very important issue. We are trying, and the Slovak minister is strongly on board, and Andrews as well. We are trying to make sure that the European Union is not giving the 50 million which is dedicated to Belarus as a humanitarian aid related to COVID, that this money will not appear on the accounts of the government and representatives of the regime. And I think that along all the other issues which have been mentioned, which is sanctions against the perpetrators of the regime and the people who are violating human rights, sanctions against those who are financing the regime, immediate release of all political prisoners, and the organization of observed free elections. These are our primary goal, but these goals will not achieve our aims, which means democratic and free Belarus, unless we will stop financing the regime via European money. And that's why I believe it's absolutely vital and strategic to make sure that this money is not going to the ministries. Of course, the European Union sees it's important to support the civil society, to support those who need healthcare, those students and children who need education. But unless the EU finds a proper way how to provide this help without this money going through the budget, through the accounts of the ministries, we have to postpone the financing, and we have to make sure that the way will go directly to those people who need it, and not to those who are perpetrating this inhuman regime. Thank you to everyone who is contributing to this discussion. I just wanted to mention this one issue which I believe that it's absolutely vital, and we have to unite it in it. And then of course our thoughts and prayers are with those who are suffering and fighting for their freedom in Belarus, because free Belarus is a vital goal for the European Union, not only because of our security, but also because, I mean, as a person coming from an ex-communist country, I do understand how much it means that the world is supporting you in your fight. So, Živje Belarus.
Miriam, and we're coming to perhaps final stage of our really very very important and very valuable discussion. I would like to ask our Belarusian colleagues maybe to prepare for some kind of final comments. What you know, for your reaction to what you have heard from members of European Parliament, and what would you like to stress, you know, again, you know, for us to understand what's most important. It's again interesting coincidence, not coincidence. I don't know even how to name it. But next week on plenary session, we shall have 2 discussions in a row. One will be on Belarus. We know what we discussed, you know, and second will be on Russia and Navalny case. And we are preparing 2 resolutions. And in both resolutions, we are naming 2 names, you know, besides Svetlana Tikhanovskaya and Masha Kolesnikov. 2 names are Lukashenko and Putin. That is what connects those 2 items, you know. And my personal story is that, you know, besides the first year being, you know, co-chair of Euronest, which is responsible for Eastern Partnership, and I am very happy, you know, with all the colleagues, very active colleagues, to really push some agenda. Recently, I became also standing rapporteur on Russia, which is very much again interconnected. And I think that really, like Rasa have said, for me, developments in Belarus brings clear evidence that democracy can come so suddenly, you know, that even we, the neighbors of the country, you know, a few months ago, were not expecting, you know, anything. And so that shows that really, even in Russia, it can happen very quickly. Second point, which I would mention before giving the floor to you, perhaps it would be very good, I don't know, we shall discuss maybe with the leadership of the parliament really to organize a special visit of the leadership of Coordination Council, of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, here to Brussels, to Parliament, to other institutions. Or even it would be good, I don't know how it can be done, but in any case, you know, it would be good to have a permanent representation of democratic Belarus here in Brussels. And that would be, again, very, very important. And last point is, you know, since perhaps all of us, we cannot travel to Belarus for time being. I hope that it will be a short you know, period. But nevertheless, maybe we can look into possibility to have a delegation of members of European Parliament to come through Warsaw to Vilnius, and to have again meetings with those who are representing real democratic Belarus. Now, before the final, you know, I would ask maybe in opposite order, starting from Andrei Sannikov to make comments, but also I will, being moderator of this meeting, I will try very briefly to mention that we got also several questions on internet. The first one, which was put in Russian language, I will read in Russian language, again, to show that I still remember Russian language. Насколько показательным, на ваш взгляд, опыт протестов в Беларуси может быть для граждан России? И второй вопрос. Судя по публичным выступлениям лидеров оппозиции Беларуси, они твердо убеждены, что ситуация в их стране в корне отличается от ситуации в Украине в 2013-2014 году. Откуда взялась такая убежденность? Ну, я там дальше еще, но вот это главный вопрос. Second question. How can support of the European Union for Belarus be combined with a successful inclusion of the Russian Federation in order not to provoke stronger intervention from the Russian side and drag Belarus in a geopolitical conflict between the EU and Russia? And the last one, what form should take the new European strategy for Belarus, taking into account EU policy with the 5 guiding principles on Russia? What is the strategy of the EU to engage with National Coordination Council when 6 or 7 leaders have been imprisoned or forced to leave out the country? So I don't know if some of those questions maybe not to our Belarusian friends, and we answered to some of them, you know, before. But now I will give the floor first of all to Andrei Sannikov. You can make whatever comment, not especially trying to answer the questions which I read. But please, Andrei, the floor is yours.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. First, I would like to draw attention to a very important point that was mentioned here by Valentin Stefanovich. He mentioned it before during the informal meeting of the Security Council of the United Nations, that what is going on in Belarus from the part of a regime of Lukashenko has all the features of crime against humanity. And also we had the statement of Grigory Yavlinsky today, that what Lukashenko is doing, he is doing it as a war criminal. So, and there was an idea tabled by the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe to start international investigation and to create investigation group on the crimes in Belarus. I think that it is time to think about international tribunal, because what Valentin Stefanovich mentioned, and he is really a professional in this, about the mechanism of United Nations, they are weak, frankly, and they really suppose they require the involvement of the government and agreement of the government. It doesn't work in the situation with dictatorship. Although even the preparation of international tribunal on the crimes committed in Belarus, and we see that today even Nobel Prize winner is not safe. And the European ambassadors have to spend night in the apartment of Svetlana Alexievich to save her. What to say about the ordinary people? They're really under enormous threat. Their lives are threatened. And so even the preparation of such mechanism, it could be innovative, because, you know, I don't understand your concerns. I don't understand your worries about Russia, about Putin, but I don't quite understand the connotation, because European Union, in my view, is the strongest democratic union, is the strongest democratic entity, is the wealthiest democratic entity in the world, is the most powerful democratic entity in the world. It is combined with NATO. It is the most effective instrument to prevent crimes against humanity, to prevent war crimes, and to act decisively in support of democracy. So I think what Rasa Inkievichene said, I always say this, but I put it in a different perspective. It's not the next wave of collapse of the Soviet Union. It's the next wave of liberation of Eastern Europe. And I really think that it is coming now very strongly, with a lot of potential for all our region and for all former Soviet republics to join the democratic family of nations, no matter what their particular way of development will be. As for your questions, you asked about Rasa's questions about the propaganda. You know, the most effective propaganda in Belarus was not Lukashenko's TV, it was Russian TV. So it is now important what Russia is saying, what Russian TV is saying for the people of Belarus. Those propagandists that work for Belarusian TV, the Belarusians are very skeptical about them. But what they are doing with their propaganda in Moscow, what they are doing with their trolls, as they did it in Ukraine, that is very important. That is a warfare. That is a warfare that is recognized, but maybe Franek would say more about this. And I would like also to stress one very important point. The sanctions should be tied to the immediate release of political prisoners, especially the political leaders like Sergei Tikhanovsky, Nikolai Statkevich, Pavel Severinets, and Viktor Babaryka. Those are the people that created this momentum in Belarus, and they have to be released immediately. And all the measures, all the sanctions are morally justified in this case. So I really thank you for this meeting. I thank you for all your statements. We really feel a lot of concern, and we're grateful for this. But I also encourage you to act according to your strength, according to your might. Thank you.
And now I would like to ask Valentin Stefanovich to make his comments.
Спасибо за очень интересную дискуссию. И я хотел бы, сказать несколько слов. Во-первых, я думаю, что и это понимание есть. Необходимо исходить из того, что мы наблюдаем очень серьезный и глубокий кризис с правами человека сегодня в стране, в Беларуси. И ситуация продолжает ухудшаться, особенно в последние дни, в течение этой недели. И фактически каждый день мы слышим о задержаниях людей, о возбуждении новых уголовных дел за участие в демонстрациях. И поэтому, естественно, мы очень заинтересованы, чтобы Европейский Союз продемонстрировал свою принципиальную жесткую позицию по фактам нарушений прав человека в Беларуси. Сейчас правозащитный центр «Весна» собрал более 500 свидетельств жертв пыток, которых мы фиксировали с самого начала, с 9 августа начиная, 10-11, в том числе с помощью видеофиксации. И, в общем-то, мы готовы передать все собранные материалы любому органу международного расследования, который мог бы его проводить и исследовать эти материалы. Мы также сейчас их уже обрабатываем, классифицируем и будем готовить по этому поводу отдельный доклад о нарушении, о пытках и других видах нарушений прав человека в этот период в нашей стране. Освобождение политзаключенных на сегодняшний день является одной из основных задач. Размеры и объемы уголовного преследования настолько велики, что мы даже не знаем фамилии всех людей, которые сейчас находятся в тюрьмах. На сегодняшний день мы эту информацию собираем, и 58 человек уже признаны белорусским правозащитным сообществом политзаключенными, но на самом деле, повторюсь, этих людей гораздо больше. Поэтому мы лично и правозащитное сообщество Беларуси, и правозащитный центр «Весна», в частности, который я представляю, поддерживаем любые политические решения Европейского Союза, направленные на освобождение политзаключенных, в том числе включая и санкции. И в том числе и санкции в отношении лиц, которые непосредственно были причастны к пыткам и грубым нарушениям прав человека в нашей стране. Ну и также я, как гражданин Беларуси, конечно, поддерживаю то, чтобы Европейский Союз как можно принципиально и жестко высказался на неприемлемость любого вмешательства со стороны Российской Федерации, включая возможные военные интервенции и другого рода интервенции в Беларусь. И я думаю, что можно было бы в этом вопросе последовать примеру Соединенных Штатов Америки, которые недвусмысленно заявили о том, что в случае интервенции России в Беларусь, Россия столкнется с новыми экономическими санкциями в отношении ее. Большое спасибо.
Final statement, please, go on. Franek Vacherka.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, thank you, everyone, so much for your support, and thank you for your great speeches and presentations, Rasa, Miriam, Viola, Andrus, everyone, and Anna. I mentioned already. Petras, everyone who supported Belarus. Belarus never knew that it has so many friends worldwide. And, you know, we already achieved a lot during this revolution, during this ongoing uprising. And Belarus will never be same as it was before. And I think this is what European leaders must recognize the first of all. They must realize that and accept the new reality. And by not imposing sanctions, they still expect some of your colleagues, perhaps, that the situation will be solved and they will get back to negotiations with Lukashenko, business as usual, but not anymore. People will not let Lukashenko to stay in power for longer than 6-9 months. I feel this. Even with support of Putin, Lukashenko is already lost this momentum. I warmly support what Andrei Sannikov mentioned about the sanctions. about the pressure, about immediate action of any type of statements and decisions that will be taken soon. I warmly support the sending of monitoring missions of United Nations and OSCE, and strengthening special rapporteurs of European Union, of United Nations as well. Everyone who can help to document the human rights crimes. Yes, there is initiative Black Book of Belarus, which I personally found extremely important weapon, peaceful weapon against the regime. Black Book of Belarus exists on Telegram, where thousands of people contribute, and they collect information on all those riot policemen, officers, officials, siloviki, who participate in the crackdowns of illegitimate Lukashenko, and name them, and later this information will be added to the sanction proposed sanction list. And I think if we will be able to build this system, this Black Book of Belarus will get even more powerful. Because right now you saw all these policemen wearing masks just because they're afraid to be named, and they're afraid to appear on the sanctions. And let's always remember that sanctions is just a segue to the negotiations on future Belarus. That's a segue for the transition and power transition. Even if Lukashenko will not be negotiating and having dialogue with the people, people in the regime are already considering doing this. And we often receiving signals from different parts of the system that they are ready to switch, they are ready to change the camp, the site, but we need to create more incentives for them. And sanctions on one side and support on the other side, this is the way how to catalyze this process. Thank you so much again.
Well, thanks a lot, Franek, thanks a lot. And I have no final comments. Simply, Franek, especially Franek, if you can send best regards to your father, Vinsuk Vechorka, whom we know from old times, and even we know that he knows Lithuanian language, which we hope that you will follow.
I will learn
example.
Of course.
So really, thanks a lot to all Belarusian people, and to all of you who participated here. Thanks to my colleagues. And again, I don't know who can do that. Maybe Franek, I will appeal again to you. We don't know where is Svetlana Tikhanovskaya now. She's traveling somewhere in Poland, or she's coming back to Belarus. But if you could send her, especially from all our this seminar, best wishes and happy birthday, so that would be very much appreciated. So, Żywe Belarus, and let's keep in touch. And really, you are bringing, all of you, despite all what you are, facing now, all that torture and so on, but you are bringing so much of optimism into Europe that really we are very, very, very thankful to you. So, thanks a lot to everybody, and let's keep going on. And I appeal to all our colleagues in European Parliament. Let's do our job. Thanks a lot.